Welcome to the third installment of classic Maltese recipes from the 1950s. It's brought to you by myself, Andrew Benici, and it's sponsored by COVID-19. That pain in the ass that will not go away. Late September is actually quite important to the Maltese race or the Maltese population. Why? Because they gained independence on September the 21st, 1964. So this is actually a big weekend, and this is dedicated to Maltese Independence Day. And what we're going to do, or what I'm going to share with you, is something I like to call a tale of two rabbits. What I'm going to do this weekend is make Malta's classical dish twice. Okay? Now, anyone who knows a Maltese person knows that the Maltese classical dish is rabbit stew, or as the Maltese call it, Stuffat Fenek. Okay? It's pretty iconic. You can say I got teased a lot in high school about it. Oh, rabbit stew, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Don't care because it's actually pretty good and I love it. A lot of you probably don't eat rabbit. Oh no, I can't eat Bugs Bunny. Well, you can, because he tastes pretty tasty if you cook him well. Now, you got to remember, Maltese, no rivers, no lakes, no fields, no trees, whatever. They had to eat what they could find. The only thing they could find, hopping around in the rocks and stuff, were rabbits. And they've actually got a Maltese dog called Fenek, rabbit dog, also called Pharaoh hound, that they use to hunt rabbits. So it's pretty iconic, and it's pretty central to the Maltese persona or nationality, or whatever you want to call it. But that's why we're doing it. All right, Maltese stew, two versions. Here we go. Last night I did a cooking class presented by Shane Delia in the Maha restaurant to celebrate Maltese Independence Day. Basically, he sends over some ingredients. You've got to basically prepare the rabbit stew while he's in the background telling you what to do. This is going to be his style. It's actually his father's and then his grandfather's recipe. What I'm going to do, though, is compare that to the Oracle's rabbit stew. Yes, the Oracle's rabbit stew. Head to head. Okay? Maha, West Sunshine. Head to head. That's what we're going to do. Mum's dish is a little bit different, and I'll go through the differences. I came to an epiphany during it, I must say, right? So I'd like to say that there's still growth in this old dog. But yeah, stick around, watch and listen, watch and learn, or just watch and put shit on me. But yeah, rabbit stew, cooked two ways, tale of two rabbits. Really got to thank the Uncle Paul. Beautiful rabbit, 2 months old. It's not a wild rabbit. It's just been, hand-fed and hand-reared at somebody's house or somebody's farm. We've got the kidneys. We've got the liver. We've jointed it, 2 legs, 2 back legs, 2 front legs, vice versa. The belly flaps are here. The rib cage, the saddle, the highly sought after area, and more rib cage, and I think that's just where the back legs were. A little bit of meat there. Meat on the bones, always sweet, so we're going to throw that in. We're going to throw in the livers and the kidneys. What we're not going to throw in is the head and the lungs, but at least we know it's a rabbit. So here we go, fast and loose, rabbit stew, Fenek Stuffat, Maltese style. Got 2 onions in the pot, frying. In fact, I'll let them fry a little bit longer. What I'll do is give you a quick story about the Benicis. One that probably doesn't put the Oracle in the best of lights, but yes. About 40 years ago, my brother brought his girlfriend over for the first time to the Benici household. Ricky Lee, English girl, tiny, 5'2", sweet, 19 years old probably. Always a big thing when you're meeting your in-laws for the first time. Anyway, she meets my mother. My mother showing her around the house, shows her rabbit pen. In particular, one rabbit called Fluffy. And Fluffy was beautiful, like beautiful, fluffy rabbit. They took it out, they patterned it. It was just lovely, no problem. So beautiful, that was all fine. 2 weeks later, Ricky Lee, that's my sister-in-law, is back at the family house eating lunch with the Benicis, which was a big thing at that stage because there was 6 kids around. Anyway, she's eating lunch and it's rabbit stew. And out of nowhere, my mother, the Oracle, goes, Ricky, what do you think about Fluffy now? Is she nice? You can understand that 19-year-old Anglo girl exploded, pushed the plate away, you name it. Okay, like that. Mustn't have been that bad. She's married to my brother still, and she actually eats rabbit stew, so it couldn't have been that bad. One can of chopped tomatoes. 1 bottle of passata. Be told to get everything out of it. Passata. Now put spices.
How much was that, babe?
What we've done there is basically 1 tablespoon of curry. One tablespoon of paprika. I've used sweet, but you can use salt or smoked or whatever you want to do. She puts in a little chili powder. I'm going to put in basically a teaspoon and a half maybe. This is pretty weak chili powder. This pretty weak chili powder though. It's more for colour than anything else. It's an Indian variety. She likes to put in a stock cube. Okay. I don't know which it is, beef or chicken. But
She gave you beef, I think.
Beef one. Okay, beef stock cube. That's all right.
And you've got the garlic in here.
And I've got 6 cloves of garlic in there. And what we've got here is a bit of allspice. Okay. Yep, she likes a bit of allspice. If you're putting in 1 tablespoon of curry, put in half a teaspoon or half a tablespoon of the allspice. Okay, so that's a proportion. She said put in 2 bay leaves. These are all broken up, so I'll put about that many. This is the interesting part. Instead of frying up all the ingredients, all the meats, and then putting in there and searing it and doing all that crap, no, she just puts it in there after she's put in the tomato sauce. Okay? I asked her, you know, why, Mum? Why do you do that? Why don't you fry the rabbit? And she actually said she believes that if you fry the rabbit beforehand, it will dry it out. And rabbit, you know, not having that much fat in it, I actually tended to agree with her. I thought, actually, yeah, that actually makes sense here. So we are going to put in all the kidneys, the livers. I reckon a lot of people won't want to do the livers, but we'll put them in anyway. We might save the strap. That'll cook in a shorter period of time. And I've just realised that I forgot to give you the other ingredients that have to go in this, which is potatoes and peas. But they come later anyway. So what we're doing, we've got all that in there. We're going to turn it on high. I might actually put a little bit, just a little bit of water in there. Not much, just a little bit. I'm going to put that on high, get it to boiling, then I'm going to put it down to medium to low and let that go for a while, probably about 15 minutes, and then put the potatoes in. Okay, so with Shane Delia's recipe, and I think you can see this on SBS as well, as I stir the potatoes through. What he did, what his father does, and what they've always done is they marinate the rabbit in wine for, I think, overnight or 24 hours. So the rabbit pieces that he sent us came in red wine. It had a star anise. It had 2 cinnamon sticks. It had a couple of cloves in it. And was it something else?
Can't remember. I think that's all.
Yeah, so I think that's all. So very sort of Indian spices, really. Yeah, so that was fine. What he then did was took the rabbit out of the wine, pat him dry, and then fried him. Okay, so he put him in flour and fried him, which is different to what we're doing here. So you go, okay, so a little bit different, no problem. What he also did, he didn't put a can of tomatoes or passata in it. What he did was, look, about half a can of tomato paste. And then what he did was added the wine mixture again that he'd marinated it. And he also added about 700 mils of chicken stock. But, and I'll try to get the, what's it called? He also added some flavours and spices in it that we haven't added here. All right, so here's the menu that came with the Shane Delia cooking class. And yeah, he just used some different spices in the stew that I wouldn't normally use. What I learned from this process, and I'm kind of happy with it, is, you know, there's so many shades and differences you can do with your cooking. So his recipe, his traditional recipe, passed down from his grandfather to father, includes the curry powder. Look, he puts curry powder in. He puts in a lot of, you know, almost the same amount of turmeric and the same amount of ground cumin. And he also puts in paprika, okay? We put in paprika as well, so that's similar. For me, what it did, it gave it a slightly different flavour profile. Last couple of years I've been trying to cook Indian food, and the turmeric and the cumin just moved it more to the Indian, just a bit similar to some of those Indian curries, but not that similar. So there was just the hint, so it moved it across, so which I found quite interesting. It's actually no surprise that Shane Delia's recipe has some Indian spices. What you got to remember is that Malta was on the spice trail. So spices would have, don't forget, the UK colonised India. They would have transported spices from India through to the Middle East, stopped in Malta, and then kept going to the UK. While the ships were in Malta, obviously Maltese people grabbed some curry, grabbed some turmeric, grabbed some cumin, and added it to their dishes. That's why it's no surprise that Maltese actually use curry, even though they're not making the traditional Indian curries. And it's no surprise that Shane Delia's recipe has cumin and turmeric. Perfectly logical. Smells an absolute treat. It's been going for a good hour or so now. Getting to the final stages. The Oracle says you got to put peas in there. Obviously, Maltese dish, got to have peas. She is adamant that you've got to use canned peas. And she said throw in the whole jar. Okay, we're just stirring the peas through. It's starting to look like a Maltese dish. The peas actually, Lara, smell the same as the ones that she uses. Yeah, so the stew is starting to really smell like hers. We'll have a taste of that, and then we'll put in a bit of the pea juice and see what happens there. Time for the reveal. That's it. Peas are in, potatoes are tender, meat is falling off the bone or pretty soft. I put in the livers again, I put in the kidneys. I actually added a fair bit of salt a couple of times, right, so don't forget to do that. You might have to tweak the spices till you're happy, but yeah, it's pretty good. Must admit, it's not as good as my mother's, but it's pretty good. Got the same flavour profile. Yeah. The looks a bit different to Shane Delia's. Shane's one had a lot more the red wine, so it was a deeper, darker, richer kind of colour. Yeah, so yeah, probably overall he was a touch richer. This is less so, but yeah, both pretty good. Every spoon I have, it tastes more like my mother's, actually. That pork, I reckon, really adds to it. I don't know how the fuck she plucked that at her ass at 75 years old. That's fucking bullshit. But it's actually good. Like, you look at that, it's actually nice.
Can I look at it?
Wasn't sure you were recording then. Not as good as my mother's, but it's still pretty good. That's it, guys. Get out. This is Shane Dahlia's rabbit stew. It's his father's recipe, a little different to mine. Not a fan of the frying the meat beforehand. What he's done, we normally have potatoes within our dish. He's made another potato dish separately.